front of you. It's not necessary for you to take the photocopies, but if you want to, the 20 cents a page, and there's 2 pages. And the reason I've done these is partly because I was doing them for Edgecliff, who are one series of talks ahead of you people, and we were looking at Zoroastrian festivals. And these foods are very important for, you know, the various festivals, and I think I've mentioned that they're important for the festival I had in July. So, and also I've got the name of the book there that I took them from, the $110 book, but it's got a lot in it. It's actually worth sourcing. I bought it from the Persian grocery Sahel, which is sort of the corner of Victoria and Penshurst in Willoughby, and they've got a terrific range of items like sour grape powder and rose petals and things like that for you to cook with, and they've got a selection of cookbooks as well. But nevertheless, I'll run off various things. Now this is the recipe for the osh. I think I mentioned as their sort of typical winter bean and lentil soup, and then they always shred some greens and put in as well. So it's a complete food, even though traditionally they would probably have kime, which is also a sort of rice, and might even have meat stew as well, and that then would be a really well-rounded meal. So this, the reason I thought this was so good, this particular osh, there's millions of oshes by the way, and you'll notice it's spelled A-S-H, but it's pronounced O, as in squash, our word squash. So that's that. Because it's got a few things that are very typically Persian there, like the beans, the chickpeas, the lentils, and I may have mentioned that if you put legumes with grains or nuts or seeds, you end up with a complete protein. So you actually, can eat this and live on it, and this actually is the nickname the beggar's osh. And you don't need meat because you're getting complete protein. And because it's got noodles in it, that's where the combination comes from, the grains plus the legumes. But she's thrown in a beef bone as well. She's thrown in some dill, a cup of chopped fresh dill. They just love dill. I always put that, she's got it in early, I always put that in at the end because I love the flavour of dill. I put in at the end lots of lemon juice to sour it, that's very Zoroastrian as well. You'll notice she's got, this is a huge amount, she's put in a lot of fresh spinach. I put in whatever greens I've got, shredded very finely. She's got a fresh beet. Now they love white turnips. I might have said this before, I'm going to say it again, but they recommend that you eat white turnips if you have a cold. So, they would probably try and throw in white turnips. Then there's a requirement for kashk. Kashk is like a very concentrated, salty yogurt. Very sour, very salty, very strong. So they would put that on top and, swirl it in as they eat. And they would also drizzle over the top dried mint that's been mixed with a few spices and oil. And they would drizzle that over the top. And again, you mix it in as you go and to your taste, which is really nice. And Lily's restaurant, I brought some more menus if you want, and Willoughby Road, they make osh fresh every second day in winter as a special. It's not on the menu, but it's on a board outside. So, and I really recommend it. They'll give you a nice small serving, incredibly filling, keeps you going for a long, long time. And I've also thought this was good because at the bottom it says how to say enjoy your meal in Persian, which is nushejan. Nushejan. We're all familiar with bon appetit and all that sort of thing, so that's their version of it. Then a particular Zoroastrian festival, they use the spinach soup. This is for the water festival, Zoroastrian water festival, which they have in July. When I say Zoroastrian, that means it dates right back to, very, very ancient times, actually before the dynasty that we're looking at now. Zoroaster, we think, may well have been born in 1900 BC. The very earliest would have been, or the very latest would have been 900 BC. So these go back to those sorts of times, and yet they're still celebrated, even by Muslims. It's just so fundamentally a part of their lifestyle. Quite a lot of the Muslims don't realise that what they're doing is celebrating a rather pagan thing when they have these autumn festivals and water festivals. The autumn festivals coming up, and I think I gave you the recipe for the koruche for that. So there's a second page, and that's the rice with yellow split peas, and I'm giving you that because it's a polo, and polo spelled various ways, but she spelled it with a W, is very, you know, the Persians love their rice. This is another way in which they're distinctive from other Middle Eastern cuisines. I mean, there is a little bit of rice in, say, Turkish food and, you know, dolmadis and things like that, dolma, but not nearly as much as the Persians. They absolutely adore rice, and it goes back to their trade with China on the Silk Road. So, and then, of course, went as risotto when they were trading with Venice, and that's why, you know, in Venice they eat risotto. So I thought I'd give you a polo, and she's got tomato juice there. You'd have to realise that tomatoes would have been a New World addition around about the 15th, 16th century, but of course they caught on very, very quickly. So I've got a few things there. I've also got the recipe for advieh. There are different adviehs. These are spice mixtures. So just as in China, you've got five spice. In India, you've got garam masala. So in Persia, you've got spice mixtures. But guess what? There's such a complex cuisine, they've got three. All right, so they've got three different advieh for rice, for pickles, and for meat stews. And I've given you the appropriate one in my scribble down there, which is for rice. And this is, you know, very light, by the way, very not heavy-handed with spices. The Persians do not go in for heavy. They don't go in for heavy chili or garlic or spices. It's so delicate that you won't find it edgy cuisine at all. You won't find it too garlicky or anything like that. So this advieh for the rice, get this, is ground up dried rose petals. How gorgeous is that? A tablespoon of cinnamon, some cardamom, and a tiny bit of cumin compared to the other things. You know, it's not Indian in flavour or Moroccan. It's not like that at all. They also like to use turmeric, which is very mild in its aroma, as you know. And then she talks about putting the rice in and you can do this in a slow cooker actually, and they like to do this. And you can actually, I believe Maeve O'Mara did Persian cooking last Thursday on SBS. Again, she's done it before, and that's terrific. And her Food Safari, which is quite a cheap book to buy from Target, has a chapter on Persian cooking. And she often features, and may well have last Thursday, this tadi, which is this way of cooking the rice, and they often put ghee at the bottom of the pot, and you don't have to put a layer of anything, but sometimes they like a layer of potatoes. Again, that's New World, so that's 500 years old, or a layer of bread, or just rice, ghee, saffron, and it's half-cooked rice, so it's already quite wet but not quite cooked. You put a tea towel on top, tightly lid it, turn it down very low, walk away for quite a long time, come back and you get a crust on the bottom. This crust is called tadi, and this is uniquely Persian. All right, so she talks about that as well. And then she talks about serving it with sabzi. So, you know, there's quite a lot there. I think she also mentions dried limes, dried lime powder. So, you know, these are quite special to Persian cooking. So, you know, feel free to experiment with those. And if you want me to do some more recipes, I'm sure I could at some stage. All right, now we are having a look at the three beef kings. We don't have time to do all 12 for the Achaemenid dynasty, so we've just finished Cyrus. Darius is very important, and Darius